Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about wheel. And wheel is one of those poses that looks like it could be really easy, looks like it could be something that eventually everyone can do, but wheel is actually really difficult to do, not because of the strength that's needed, but because of the mobility in the joints to be able to do it. Wheel is actually one of those poses that no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, your body just may not have the physical ability to bend in those ways. So the first thing that we're going to do before we even start wheel, for my very beginners who have never done this before, we're going to stand up against the wall. And when you stand up against the wall, what you're going to do is you're going to take your hands and you're going to place them on the wall behind you. This is that part that's actually really hard. Can you get your hands flat on the wall? So you're really just going to try to get those palms flat on the wall, and then once you've got that, then you can walk your hands in. When you walk your hands in, you really want to be able to match your wrist right up with your ear, and the fingertips should be right under the shoulder blades. So you're standing up against the wall, you've got your hands up, everything's squeezing in. There we go. So if you can do this right here, then we can move on to step 2. If this right here is a struggle for you to get to, continue working on it. Start with your hands up here, work them around, start with them out, maybe turn the fingertips around in a different way, and just kind of work with it, play with it. Another thing you can do to improve your wrist mobility and wrist strength is just simple wrist stretches. You can stretch out your wrist like this, right? Or some of you guys have seen me do them in videos before on all fours. So we're going to go ahead and give that a look-see, and then we will dive into actually doing wheel. Wrist stretches on your hands and knees are really easy and simple to do. I always like to fold my mat up, create a little extra padding for my knees so I don't bruise. And you'll just come to all fours, and you just gently stretch out the wrists. So you can do this by keeping your hands flat on the ground and gently rocking forwards and backwards. So you can turn your wrists in a multitude of different directions to help this stretch. You can turn fingertips towards you. You could do fingertips facing away, fingertips facing towards each other. And then you could go palm up. So palm up, again, the same variations, fingertips facing forwards, fingertips facing backwards, fingertips facing away from each other, and fingertips facing towards each other. So plenty of different variations there to really just kind of strengthen the wrist as well as stretch it out. And then before you do a lot on your wrists or any kind of arm balances, just roll out the wrists a little bit. I put a lot of emphasis on the wrists because, little known fact, is that a lot of the injuries in yoga are to your wrists because we don't give them as much love as we should. So just to give them just a little extra attention, a little extra love, I like to incorporate lots of wrist stretches into those the beginnings of practices. So the next part about wheel that is extremely hard is the openness. So this is a huge heart opener. Your chest is going to be open, your shoulders are going to be open. So before we really get into doing the actual pose, I'm going to run us through a few stretches here. Number 1, bringing the hands together in the back of the back, clasp those hands together, and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Really open up the chest. From here, you'll lift those hands up, lifting up as high as you can. It helps to arch the back here as well sometimes, make it into a little back bend. And then let the hands come back down to the buttocks, unclasp the hands, relax those shoulders. Another great one is we're going to to take one hand, bend it over so that you're reaching back for your shoulder blade. And then just gently push that elbow back so that it's straight up and down. So that's really what you want to be able to aim for, because once you get into the wheel, get into that pose, this is pretty much where your arm is going to be. It's going to be parallel with your head, kind of going in a straight line here. That's how open your shoulder needs to be. So really just stretch it out. At the other side, again, the hand comes back towards the shoulder blade. And then just gently push the elbow up. All right. So those are just a few stretches you can do. Any shoulder stretches are really going to help before you do the wheel. So wheel is one of those poses you'll normally see at the end of a practice. It's not like a beginning pose. So if you're going to do it and you're just practicing just wheel, make sure you do get a few little stretches in just to really get the body moving first. Yeah. So now we're going to get into actually doing wheel. So wheel is one of those poses that we start on our back. I'm going to move this. Otherwise, I'm going to be off camera. All right, so wheel is one of those poses that you start on your back. So go ahead and lay down. You're going to have your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. And you're going to tuck those heels in as much as you can. They don't need to be all the way on the buttocks, but you want to bend your knees as much as you can comfortably. Your knees are going to be hip width apart, meaning they're not going to be smushed together, but they're also not going to be spread out wide, all right? You want to have a nice sturdy base. Our hips create a nice sturdy base, so that's where the knees are going to go. Now we take those hands, and we're going to do the same thing with our hands lying on our back that we did standing up against the wall. So go ahead and set your hands up, fingertips just under those shoulder blades, hands squeezing in nice and close to the head. Squeeze those elbows. They should be pointed up towards the ceiling. Now we'll go ahead and lift the hips. Once you get to about this point right here, this is like your bridge, this is when you're going to need that arm strength. So for level 1, the first time we're doing this, we're just going to lift up slightly and rest your head. Now, when you rest your head, you want to feel as though you can slide a piece of paper, a thin little piece of paper between your head and the mat. If you can't, then let yourself come right back down to here. If you can, then we're going to raise up. We're going to go from here, lift the hips up higher, all the way up. Straighten out those legs. And tuck the chin towards the chest so you can look up at the ceiling almost. Three big breaths. Really tuck the chin, bend the arms, let the head come back down. You can take a moment here with the head on the floor, or tuck the chin all the way, let yourself come back to your shoulders, hips come back down, arms come down, and relax. So that is your basic wheel. For those of you who want to take it a little bit to the next level, you're welcome to try forearm wheels, or the wheel on the head with your forearms, which is, in my opinion, just a little bit harder than even just a regular forearm wheel. So I'm going to demonstrate those for you real quick. When I come into a forearm wheel, I start in a regular wheel. So set up my regular wheel, lift all the way up, and then forearm,
forearm, tuck the chin. And here you can straighten out your legs. And come back down. And wheel on your head with your forearms is almost the exact same thing. So you set up regular wheel, and you come up to that first stop where you can stop on the top of your head. So lift the hips, roll to the head, set up the arms, and just keep reaching back with those fingertips. Straighten out those legs as much as you can. Open up the shoulders. And then come back down. Hands, tuck the chin, lower the hips. So that was the wheel inversion. I hope that I helped some of you with finding ways to get in and out of that a little bit easier. Please keep in mind again that wheel is not an all-encompassing pose. Not everyone can do it just because of those physical limitations that we have sometimes in our wrists or our shoulders. And it's not the end-all be-all of poses. There are plenty of other poses that you can do that are going to give you a lot of the same benefits. As a matter of fact, the other name for wheel is upside down bow. So those of you who are looking for just the back bend or just the heart opener of this pose, you can do this upside down in bow. And we'll go over that another day. All right? Hi, my dog.